Where am I? What do you want? Whose side are you on? You won't get it! Oh, dear me! I'm most awfully sorry. The first generation Audi Q3. It's luxurious. It's refined. Is it any good? Should you care? Let's find out. Audi. Los geht's.
Wait a tear from time to time, we wouldn't lie. And here we are, we'll never be the same. And on the screens of our lives flash words of good songs that we've not yet sung. And we're not worried about the future, and we're not guilty about the past. We're pressing on together. It's joy that will outlast these sorrows, and it's not as if we don't have to deal with our...
So, welcome once again to Surrey and this first generation Audi Q3. My friend Naomi bought this car back in September, and this is one of the last of the first generation, which has now been superseded. This is a 1.4 TFSI S-Line automatic, and it's done about 5,000 miles. So first of all, thanks to Naomi for lending us this car to film today. Thanks, Naomi. So what can I tell you about the first generation Audi Q3? So it was launched all the way back in 2011, although the design, to me, seems still really contemporary. The engine choices at launch were mainly based around 2-litre engines. There was a 177 horsepower and a 210 horsepower turbocharged 2-litre. There was also a 2.5 litre turbocharged engine in what's called the Q3 RS, and that had anything between 300 and 360 horsepower depending on the model you went for. This, though, is a 1.4 litre car, which is a 150 horsepower engine with cylinder deactivation. So sometimes it runs on 4 cylinders and sometimes it runs on just 2, depending on what sort of load the engine needs to get better economy. In addition to the petrol engines, there are also some diesels, but of course we don't talk about those. The trim levels available in the first generation Audi Q3 are Sport, S-Line, which is what one of these is, and then the Black Edition, although confusingly you can get the Black Edition in other colours as well apart from black. No idea why that is. Ask the marketing department at Audi. The first impression you get when getting into this car is just one of quietness, smoothness and luxury. It's a very, very simple process driving this car, particularly with this 6-speed automatic gearbox. It doesn't actually feel as hard on the suspension as you might think. The S-Line's got 18-inch alloy wheels, and some reviews will tell you it doesn't ride very well, but we've been driving around for half an hour or so today over all kinds of roads, and it's been absolutely fine. So definitely don't worry about the suspension too much. The one thing I would say about the driving experience of this car is that although the ride is good and everything like that, I don't get much feedback through the steering. For a supposedly sporty car, and particularly this S-Line trim, I'd expect a bit more feedback from the steering, but to me it just feels very light, very remote, and you know, even something like a SsangYong Tivoli, you can adjust the steering mode and get a bit more weight. In this car, I don't think you can do that, and that's a shame. So every engine that you can get in the Audi Q3 of this generation does 0 to 60 in under 10 seconds. This particular car, it's a front-wheel drive 1.4 automatic, and it does 0 to 60 in about 9.5 seconds. Obviously, if you were looking at something like the Q3 RS, that can do 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds if you get the highest powered version. So it's not a slow car by any means. In terms of fuel economy, if you avoid the 2-litre diesels that I can't talk about, then this 1.4 is probably going to be your best bet. And on a long trip, I reckon you get about 45 miles per gallon. Round town, maybe 35 to 40. Depends on what sort of traffic conditions that you've got, but I don't imagine this would be too expensive a car to run for the price you're paying up front for it. So in terms of what you get for your money, and generally when it was new, the Q3 would cost between about 25 and 35,000 pounds. The base spec SE model, which didn't even come with things like keyless entry, neither does this, probably is less desirable, because the S-Line's got these lovely silver roof rails, it's got this lovely steering wheel, it's got the 18-inch alloy wheels, which make it look a little bit nicer, and you can either have the comfort suspension or the sports suspension. I'm not actually sure which one this car is. Maybe we're on the comfort suspension, which is why the ride is really good. But nevertheless, you can select one or the other. It's also got sat nav, it's got Bluetooth, dual zone climate control, and it's got cruise control. And because this is the automatic, we've actually got these paddle shifters, although I don't think everyone's ever going to use those really. So the overall impression of being in this car is just one of effortless performance. You can well imagine being on the Autobahn and being overtaken by one of these, flashing in its headlights. These daytime running lights that it's got, which are full LED in this car, are really, really nice, and it makes the car look a little bit sort of menacing. But if you're inside it, you just feel really relaxed. It feels like a sort of place that you can spend lots of time and not get tired, which for a cruiser in somewhere like Germany is really, really good. Something that my wonderful cameraman Mr. Franks has just mentioned to me is the fact that out of all the cars we've actually reviewed, and this is the sixth one we've done, this is by far the most comfortable one in terms of the ride. We just went over a speed bump just then and we barely felt it. Probably the leather seats of his S-Line model, they help as well, and with the overall feeling of just general waftiness. But yeah, this is a lovely car. I can see why Naomi goes to work in this every day, and I can see why she chose this particular car to help her be very soothed and relaxed on her commute.
Time to time we wouldn't lie. And here we are, we'll never be the same, and on the screens of our lives flash words of good songs that we've not yet sung. And we're not worried about the future, and we're not guilty about the past.
That was a lovely, lovely drive. I can't remember driving anything this luxurious this side of a Mercedes-Benz. Anyway, time to look at the more practical side of this car. Let's try out that electric tailgate. As you can see, we've got all our filming equipment in here today, and the boot's a reasonable size in this car. It's about 420 litres with the spare wheel, 460 litres without. If I can just get this open, there we go. So yeah, plenty of room for things in there. It's not as big as a lot of other cars. This is a more style-focused car than a lot of the others, but yeah, it's practical enough. There's no 12-volt socket in there though. So we take a seat in the back. It's very easy in this car because it's nice and high up off the ground. So for reference, I'm 5'11". This is my driving position, and the knee room is perfectly fine. Headroom's okay, not quite as much as I'd want, but it's not too bad. ISOFIX points, one of my favourite things. Unfortunately, they have these covers on them which don't attach, so I think you just lose those immediately. So the seats do fold 60-40 in this car. There's a nice sort of flat load floor if you use that. Although in a car that costs about £30,000, The fact that there's no armrest and no ski hatch, it's not unforgivable, but it's a surprising omission. Up here in the front, it's a really, really comfortable car, this. The seats go up and down and back to front and everything like that. The steering wheel just for rake and reach. The seats are really nice in this S-Line model. They're sports seats and they really hold you in the corners. It's a really nice, comfortable place to sit. It's very easy to get a good driving position. The centre console, it looks a bit dated these days. Bear in mind this car was first launched in 2011. So it may be unusual to see the controls for the multimedia system and the sat-nav on the dashboard and not here where it is on later Audis with their MMI interface. But, you know, the controls feel perfectly nice. The materials on the door tops and on the dashboard are nice and soft. And, you know, Audi do make some of the best quality interiors in the world, and this car is no exception whatsoever. The glove box is big enough for secret mission documents, just about. There are some nice big door bins, although unlike in a Golf, say, they're not felt lined, there's some rubber in the bottom. This particular car has dual zone climate control, which is lovely. It's very easy to operate with these rotary dials. And everything is where you'd expect it to be, and all the switches feel very, very high quality indeed. One of the unusual things about this car for, I say, a modern audience is that it has a pop-out central infotainment screen. Now, this is quite a small one. I think the screen on my phone is as big as this, actually. It's about 6 or 5 inches. And it's controlled, as I've said, by these buttons and a knob on the dashboard. The graphics look quite old-fashioned, and the sat-nav probably isn't that good. I've actually spoken to my friend Naomi about this, and she says no, she gave up using it after a week because it was so inaccurate, so that's not so good. So this particular car has the automatic gearbox, a 6-speed, it's called an S-tronic gearbox, and an electronic handbrake. That does take a bit of getting used to, but it's quite nice if you live in a city to have this sort of combination. The dials here, it's not Audi's virtual cockpit, sadly. It's just normal dials, and you know the graphics look a bit dated, but the steering wheel controls are very, very nicely laid out. It's very easy to use, and you could quite easily spend a lot of time in this cabin and just savour the ambience. One of the things about this particular car we've noticed whilst we've been filming today is that it's very dark in here. I think you could get a panoramic sunroof on some models, but this one doesn't actually have it. And it means the car's very dark inside, although visibility is absolutely fine. It's a bit higher up than most cars, and this one's got front and rear parking sensors, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. The footprint's about the same as sort of like a Golf, so in terms of slotting into tight spaces in the city, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. So, what then do I think of this Audi Q3? It's a very refined car. It looks very handsome, it's well equipped, and it's very easy to drive. The only thing I would say is that it's a little bit dated now, and the technology really is behind the times. It's also quite expensive, but if you can get a deal on one of these, I'm sure you'd be very happy with it. Oh dear me, excuse me. Who is number one? I'm not a number, I'm a free man! Thank you for watching this episode of Tweed Jacket Reviews. We really hope you enjoyed it. My name's Joseph Lloyd, I'm an independent vehicle consultant. If you wish me to source a car for you, then please visit my website, which is www.lloydvehicleconsulting.co.uk. I also have a Facebook page, facebook.com/Lloyd Vehicle Consulting. Thank you.